Hey there, Cayman Climate Champions. Welcome back to a brand new adventure with me, Bella, your Climate Ranger. Today, we are here on the Mastic Trail in one of the last dry tropical forests in the Caribbean. And we are going to talk to a forest ranger all about this magical ecosystem. I'm ready. Are you? Let's go. Forest Ranger Kathy Childs from the National Trust to tell us a little bit more about this majestic ecosystem. Hey, Kathy.
Hey, Bella. It's great to see you.
Well, this is just beautiful.
Isn't it?
So, could you tell us a little bit about the biological interconnectedness of a forest with the animals that live in it, the insects, the plants? How are they all interconnected?
That's such a great question. Everything in nature is really, really interconnected. And if something happens to one part of that, then it can disrupt all the other parts. So it's really important to understand that. So I think the one that probably most people have heard about before is food webs, right? How some creatures feed on other creatures that feed on other creatures that feed on other creatures. And if that one of those in the middle or at either end gets disrupted, then it's going to affect the entire food web. Also think about pollination, about how flowers rely on butterflies or bats or other creatures to come, hummingbirds to come and take the pollen from one flower to the other, and that's how that tree is able to reproduce. Without those animals that come around and visit the plants, we wouldn't have this amazing biodiverse ecosystem that we see here today.
Okay, and what is it about forests and their ability to sequester carbon, so to pull carbon from the atmosphere down into the ground? How important is that, and why is that important for climate change in particular?
Oh, that's a great question as well. Well, as you guys probably know, climate change is caused by having too many carbon molecules in the atmosphere, basically. Carbon dioxide, methane, other things as well. Most of that is carbon dioxide, which comes from humans. Just in the last few hundred years, we've been putting a lot of these greenhouse gases in the atmosphere through air pollution, through making electricity, through lots of other things. So all of that extra blanket of carbon that we've added to our atmosphere, unfortunately we have fewer and fewer forests around the world as well. Now, you guys all learned about, you learned in school as well about how photosynthesis works.
I did.
Right? So plants bring in carbon dioxide and they let out oxygen. So what happens to that carbon molecule, right? CO2 comes in and O2 goes out. The carbon stays in the plant, and that goes to make up the body of the plant. It goes down into the roots and mangrove ecosystems. It stays in the soil forever. So that's how trees are taking that carbon out of the atmosphere. It can help to take away some of the air pollution that we've caused and clean up the air around us, but it slows down climate change and makes it cooler. So that's how it works, kind of on a photosynthesis basis, but keep in mind that it also supports all of this biodiversity, right? All of the birds and all the things that are living here in the soil and everything. And that's really important because not only are we experiencing a climate crisis, but we also have a biodiversity crisis as well. We're losing a lot of species around the world, so we need these forests to help to support all those wonderful animals that we all want to have around us, right? We all want to be able to stand at the window and see the birds outside or whatever. So forests are really important for that reason as well. And then they also cool down the area around them. More than just from the shade. The shade helps, but it's more than that. It actually lowers the temperatures around them a few degrees, which is really huge when you're talking about climate change, when everything is going to be getting a lot hotter.
Right.
So all these things added together makes preserving forests an important part of what we're doing to stop climate change.
Right, they helped us keep the balance, right?
Exactly.
Okay, let's get a bit deeper in and see what we can find and chat more.
Awesome.
Wow, so we have found ourselves some bowthatch trees and a sea grape tree. And that's not normal for this location, is it?
No, well, the Mastic forest generally is an endangered type of dry forest ecosystem that used to be common throughout the Caribbean, but now can only be found in a few spots because unfortunately it was heavily logged during the colonial times. But we are transitioning from a mangrove ecosystem where we were talking just a few minutes ago up to the more upland area where we'll find more of the dry woodland species that we should expect. So we're seeing some of these transitional kind of species here in between the two ecosystems.
Cool. Wow, this is such a magical place. What are we doing to conserve and protect our forests here in Cayman?
That's a great question. So what we're doing to protect forests in Cayman is we have the National Trust, who is doing a lot of work to protect our forests. We have about 6% natural areas protected in in the Cayman Islands in general, and then the government is protecting about another 6. So we have about 12% of the forests in Cayman protected. Unfortunately, really what we're pushing for is 30% by 2030. So we would like to see a lot more of that area protected. Internationally, we usually see a higher proportion. So we are working really hard, the National Trust and other groups around the island and internationally, to preserve as much native forest as we can. So areas that have never been disturbed, areas that are still ancient forests that's been here before people even came here, you know, to make sure that they're still here for the kids in this classroom and their children when it's time for them to go to school. We're also working to manage invasive species. So that's a big threat to our local biodiversity because sometimes animals that come in from other places are better adapted to some of the stressors we see out there in the natural world than our local species are. So protecting our forest, managing the invasive species, and I think just trying to manage ourselves a little bit, because I think that sustainable development is really important. Community engagement, education, we do a lot of that because we really, you're right, we need to make people, help people understand how important these natural areas are, right? Because I think unless you understand that, you'll have no reason to protect it. You don't want to understand why you should.
Exactly. And when we're looking at it globally, so how can any of these ideas you just talked about, so you know, conserving, taking land and saving it for protection, how can these things be implemented in terms of climate change? So how can the adaptation mitigation for climate change, how can we use those for globally and locally?
Yeah, so nature is really important, as I kind of hit on already, for global adaptation and mitigation, meaning that mitigation means you slow down the effects of climate change, or you stop putting all the gases in the atmosphere. So having trees is going to help to keep those emissions from going to the atmosphere. And then it helps us to adapt to it, meaning that even though we're expected to get longer droughts, we're going to see rainfall because the trees create it. Even though we're supposed to see bigger flooding events, these forests act as kind of like sponges when it rains too much, and they absorb it and keep our communities from flooding. They also keep it cooler when it starts to get hotter and hotter every summer, which is what we're seeing. It helps protect us from these stronger storms that are supposed to be coming. So it's important to have nature here locally to protect us from the effects of climate change. And then internationally, what's going on is there is a big push internationally to do something about this. So places that have already lost their ecosystems are looking to other places around the world that still have them to help them conserve them.
So just like the forest where the bees and the flowers rely on each other, other countries' forests rely on our forests, and we rely on each other. It's all big interconnected web like that. Okay, let's head on just a bit deeper and finish up.
Can't wait.
So we are here at a really pretty spot. We're just surrounded by biodiversity. We have a little aerial plant there. We have a little bird's nest up there. We can hear parrots in the background. There's another orchid all the way up in this tree. We have limestone and all sorts of bugs running around beneath us. And we have some particularly strange little holes in this tree. What are those from? Do you know?
Yes, those are really cool. Those are from yellow-bellied sapsuckers, which is a little small species of woodpecker. And they migrate through here once a year. And what they do, you know, most woodpeckers go for insects, but this sapsucker, as you can tell from its name, actually likes sap. So it will go and dig into with its little beak, dig into the tree, and then keep moving along, digging holes. And then by the time it comes all the way around, the first holes will be dripping sap, and then it licks that up, and that's its food.
What a smart little bird.
It's really cool. And they come back to the same trees every year. So you'll see, that's why you'll see rows and rows sometimes on the same tree. And so it just shows you, I think, why it's important for us to preserve our ecosystems, because it's not just our local animals that rely on this being here, but these migratory species that come through are expecting that when they come. And if they're not, if those places aren't here, then they might not make it to their next destination. So, so lots of things are counting on nature here in Cayman.
So what are you hoping to see for the future of Cayman? you know, we want to see these forests protected, but what else would you like to see?
I guess I would like to see more protection, because I think that we could do a lot better. I think that in Cayman we have such amazing, beautiful biodiversity, and I'd really like to see more protected. We're doing pretty good for the marine environment. Almost 50% of Cayman's near shore is protected now, which is fantastic. But getting a little more natural areas on land protected would really, really help. And sustainable development, of course, because Cayman's economic prosperity is directly tied to the natural areas that we enjoy here in Cayman. And we need to develop in such a way that we are providing for the needs that we have now. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do that. We should definitely be building homes and things for the local people we have now. But let's think about where we put those things, right? Let's not take down an ancient forest to put up a condo or whatever, right? We can think about where we place things so everybody wins. We get to keep our beautiful natural areas, these ancient forests that have been here forever, and we get to have more places that we can enjoy being a community as well.
Oh, thank you so much for talking to us, Kathy. And thanks for bringing us out here. It's absolutely stunning.
Isn't it beautiful? Everybody should go out into nature, enjoy it. We have so many beautiful places here in the Cayman Islands, both below the water, which I think we all appreciate, but outside of the water too. Go to the Mastic Forest. Brack Parrot Reserve has some beautiful hiking trails that you can go on. Collier's Reserve, there's lots of natural areas in Cayman where you can come out and enjoy nature.
Thanks, Kathy. Remember that you are empowered and capable of making meaningful changes every day that can help the future of our islands. So get on out here and explore. And I will see you next time, Climate Rangers. Bye!